Hey, T.
My name is not T.
What? Why are you talking like a school teacher? I want to drink tea. Bring it now.
You can at least do that much for yourself. My husband always orders me around, asking me to bring this or that. He wasn't always so lax, but now this is his style. I believe he works just fine outside, but he does nothing at home. He treats me like a maid. My name is Catherine. I'm a 34-year-old housewife with kids. My husband, Fred, and I are the same age. And our son, James, is in elementary school. We are a typical family that you can find anywhere. We live in an apartment now, and the old lady next door told me that we seem to be a close-knit family. But still, I have complaints about my husband. As I mentioned before, my husband orders me around to do everything. And even though my husband is a non-management employee at the company and can't stand up to his boss, he acts arrogant with me. A while ago when we had a fight, he hurled awful insults at me. Hey, can't you wash your own cup if you use it? Why are so many cups piling up on the table?
What? You do it. Why do I have to do it every time?
But I finished doing the dishes, and then you used them, didn't you? So, shouldn't you wash it yourself?
Don't you have any intention of serving your husband? Who do you think is supporting you?
Excuse me.
I'm providing for you. Don't talk back to me. You're such a good-for-nothing lazy wife.
I'm the lazy one.
Yeah, that's right. You're always sleeping whenever you have time, aren't you? I bet you'll end up fat like a cow one day. Well, you're already a saggy old lady. If you get out of shape more, it's gonna be a turn-off.
That's horrible.
Shut up. You're worthless. You don't even have the right to fight back.
My husband would demean me in this way and smirk. Does he feel satisfied saying such cruel things? I wondered how he had changed from the kind person he used to be. Perhaps he used to just pretended to be a nice guy in front of me. I have a friend who works at the same company as my husband, and apparently, my husband is quiet at work. But this is how he is at home, and I felt like he was taking out his frustration on me. I wondered why I had to be his punching bag. Our son had heard our argument before and showed a sad expression. I felt bad for him. When I looked like I was about to cry, my son came to check on me later. And then he said to me,
Mom, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay. I'm sorry for scaring you. I shouldn't have raised my voice, either.
No, it's okay. I'm on your side, Mom. I know you're doing your best, Mom.
Thank you. After that, it seemed like my husband quickly forgot about the fight we had. Then one day, he suddenly said he wanted to buy a house of our own. Perhaps it was because he was competitive with a colleague who had built a luxurious house. That colleague is already successful and holds a good position in the company. So, we decided to go see some model homes. Several housing manufacturers had gathered near our house and were holding a housing exhibition. My son was happy when he found out that he could get a prize there.
Oh, this house from A Construction is also quite nice. The floor plan is lovely.
Yes, it is. But isn't this one of the more expensive ones in the industry?
But the reputation is really good, right? They say it has good heat insulating material and can keep the house at the right temperature. With this, we wouldn't need to use too much electricity.
Well, that's true. The A Construction company had a good reputation on the internet as well. The house design was stylish, and the insulation was highly efficient, which would reduce our electricity bill. People who want to build stylish and functional homes seem to mostly rely on this place. My husband looked at other places as well, but he seemed to like the houses from A Construction the most. So, he declared that he would build a house there. I thought it would be better to think more carefully before deciding, but he was saying that he wanted to sign a contract as soon as possible. I'm opposed to making a decision so quickly. It's an expensive purchase after all.
It's fine, isn't it? I'm the one who's taking out the loan. I'm building a house here.
But,
You don't need to be on a joint loan, just hand over a few tens of thousands to me each month.
what?
I want to make the house in my name, so I'm taking out the loan by myself. It would be embarrassing if my colleagues knew that I was taking money from my wife.
I see.
But it's an expensive house, so you should help out and pay me in cash every month.
I work from home, so I'm not a stay-at-home housewife. My husband, knowing full well that I also work, had the nerve to call me lazy the other day. I thought it was foolish of him to want to take out a loan on his own just to compete with his colleagues. He was elated when he made the contract, seemingly very happy, and he had contracted for a 35-year loan. I wondered if he wasn't worried about the fact that he'd probably be retired by then. So, astonishingly, he bought an expensive house because the construction worker said, "It's all right." I thought that those construction workers were just trying to sell an expensive house by saying that you can borrow tens of millions from the bank. After that, we waited for the house to be completed in our apartment. And finally, the house was completed. As expected, it was a beautiful and luxurious house. The day the new house was completed, my husband said he had something to talk about.
Come, sit down. I have something important to say. It's a good opportunity, so I've arranged for a new mom for our son. I'm divorcing the incompetent wife.
What?
James, you also want a young and beautiful mom, don't you? You don't need an aged mom, do you? I see. James is also happy with a new mom. Dad thinks so too.
My husband was enjoying himself alone. However, our son calmly said this.
Dad, don't you know?
Huh?
Today, Mom went to file for divorce. So you're already divorced.
What?
She was planning to divorce you once the house was finished. Mom said so.
What? What do you mean?
My husband seemed surprised at our son's words. His face had turned pale. Our son, wise beyond his years, continued to speak calmly and logically. I had always thought he was a smart boy, but I started to wonder if he was smarter than his father.
Mom already knew that Dad was having a strange conversation with a young woman on the internet, right? So, she was thinking about how to take revenge. It seems like the timing of the house's completion was good. Also, it seems that young woman is actually a scammer. Dad didn't notice. Maybe she approached Dad for money. You know, bad people like that deceive others for money, right?
What?
Actually, my husband had been obsessed with a chat lady for some time. Not only did he have inappropriate conversations with her, he also actually met with her. I think it's against the site's terms to actually meet. So, they must have decided to meet secretly. The reason I noticed this was because my husband didn't password protect his computer, and he left it logged in all the time. I got so furious that I decided to divorce this man. I don't need a husband like this anymore. And this woman is a scammer. I realized this when I saw a certain webpage. Her name was written there. It seems she approaches men and at first asks for things. Then, in the end, she asks for marriage funds and ultimately demands money. I'm sure my husband must have been told by this woman that she wanted to marry him. He's probably ecstatic thinking he can marry a young woman. I told my husband that I had noticed he was hooked on chat and that the woman he was dealing with was a scammer. My husband's face turned even more pale, looking like he's about to get sick. Well, that's why I was waiting until the house was completed. So, I'm not going to hand over money every month anymore. After all, we're already divorced, and we're strangers to each other, aren't we?
But wait, how did you manage the divorce papers? You didn't forge them, did you?
Oh, have you forgotten? You once confronted me with divorce papers. You were angry at me, and you threatened to divorce me if I ever defied you again. Those divorce papers you waved around to intimidate me, they were still at home.
What?
So, I filled them out and submitted them.
Wait, then what about the house loan? It's such an expensive house. It's going to be tough for me to pay for it all by myself every month.
Huh? But weren't you planning to divorce me and live with a new woman? Did you think I would continue to give you money even after we divorced?
Ah, well, yeah.
This stupid husband surprisingly planned to continue to demand money from me, even after he remarried a younger woman. I wondered how far he would go to take advantage of me. Why would he think that I would continue to contribute money for the house even after our divorce? His thinking is so bizarre, it's beyond my comprehension. It's such a wild idea. It makes me wonder if he even has a brain. Why did I marry such a man? I felt miserable.
So that's why, from now on, Dad will be paying the loan all by himself. Ah, was it a 35-year loan? Then by the time you finish paying, you'll be an old man. Can you afford to pay until then?
My husband looked like he was about to cry after hearing what our son said. Tears were filling up his eyes. And then he turned to me and suddenly started to apologize.
Please, take back the divorce. I didn't know that woman was a scammer. Please stay with me. Please help me pay the loan.
Absolutely not. I refuse.
What? The monthly payments are going to be tough. It's absolutely impossible for me to pay it off by myself.
Then you should pay it. Aren't you happy the beautiful house is completed? Why don't you live in that big house by yourself?
I don't want to.
My husband was crying out loud, looking miserable. Our son was looking at him with a cold gaze. I feel sorry for our son, having such a man as his father. I bet he thinks his father is weak-minded and strange. Having lost all affection for my husband, I decided to kick him out of the house. After all, this apartment was bought by my father and is in my name. So, there should be no problem in kicking him out. So, I went to our bedroom first and organized his belongings. I stuffed his clothes and other things into a duffel bag. Then, I tossed that bag into the hallway. Next, I led him to the front door and locked him out. He was crying and shouting, his face all wet with tears.
Let me in. Please, let me in.
I'm not letting you in. This apartment is mine.
What? Then where am I supposed to go?
Huh? Why don't you live in that house? It's finally completed. How wonderful. You get to start a new life today.
But
my husband no longer has a family home to return to. His parents have already passed away and their house was demolished. So, he has no family home to go back to and his relatives are far away. But I had already spoken to those relatives. I told them about my husband's infidelity and that I would be filing for divorce when the house is completed. So, I doubt he would be able to rely on his distant relatives. He has a job, so I don't think he would be able to travel that far. He lives in Ohio, and his relatives are in California and Idaho. My husband was still shouting outside. I thought he would quiet down if I ignored him, but he didn't. Then, it seems an elderly man from the next room came out. The man looks quite intimidating, with a rough appearance. He could well be described as a grumpy old man. The old man scolded him, saying he would call the police if he made any more noise. Then, my husband disappeared somewhere. I guess he has gone to that newly built house. After that, I decided to live with my son. My work from home is going well, and we're not struggling to get by. My ex-husband used to say to me, "I'm supporting you," but I wasn't being supported. I contributed to the household expenses, and I paid for my own expenses. I realized that my ex-husband just wanted to act superior. Some time passed since then. One day, I went out for my son's extracurricular activities. He's taking swimming and gymnastics lessons. And when I returned after picking up my son, my ex-husband was standing in front of the apartment. He looked thinner and dirty.
Would you consider getting back together with me? I'm having a tough time.
What?
I'm barely making ends meet with the loan repayments, and I'm even struggling to afford food. I was also forced to quit my job.
You were fired.
Yeah.
Apparently, my ex-husband was harassing my friend. This friend is the one who works at the same company. She is a married woman with a child, but she looks much younger than her age. And her style is outstanding. She is pretty. She's been my friend since college, and she won a beauty contest. My husband was harassing her. He touched her body and didn't stop even though she didn't like it. It escalated, so my friend reported it to her boss and HR. I was surprised to hear this story from my friend because I had no idea. I felt really sorry that my ex-husband caused her trouble. So, my ex-husband was forced to quit his job. Well, I could say that it can't be helped because he brought it upon himself. It's natural, considering the wrong you've done. Hang in there.
What? I'm just getting by with a part-time job now. I might even have to give up my house.
So, why not give it up? Such a luxurious house doesn't suit you. Isn't a cheap apartment good enough?
What?
Dad, just hang in there. I'll be cheering for you. Well, bye-bye. I don't think I'll ever see you again.
James.
We quickly went back into the room. My ex-husband might have stayed outside for a while, but when I looked out after an hour, he was gone. It was cold outside with snow falling, so he probably went home. Since then, I haven't been in contact with my ex-husband. But according to the rumors I've heard, he seems to have had to give up his house. However, there's no way he could sell it for the same price he bought it for. I think he'll have to pay a certain amount. Well, it's a fitting end for him. When I apologized to my friend, she told me she wasn't angry at all. Instead, she said she was worried about my mental health for having lived with such a man. I do think I was frustrated every day when I was with my ex-husband. But I no longer have any involvement with my ex-husband, and I don't have any stress. From now on, I will work hard for my son and make sure he will not suffer. And I'd like to go out for a meal with my precious friend from time to time. Somehow, since my ex-husband left, I've been able to be more positive about various things.